G&T show is intended for mature audiences. Parental discretion is advised. Live long and prosper, bitches.
Warning, this show contains spoilers, bad language, and Nick.
You have been warned.
Welcome to the Book of the Celestial Temple Book Club. Here are your hosts, Terry Lynn, Nick, Mike, and Steve.
Welcome back to the G&T Show Book of the Celestial Temple Book Club. I'm Ceridium, also known as Mike, and joining us today is the lovely Tara Lynn.
Good evening, everyone.
My main man, Nick.
Sup?
And, as always, Midnight Shadow.
Jailon Drew.
Hey!
Still writing his lines now, huh?
Hey!
You didn't do it?
I was waiting. I was picking my spot. See? Damn Brits.
Thank you for joining us for this month's Book of the Celestial Temple. This month we're discussing Star Trek Gateways, One Small Step by Susan Wright.
And the Gateways book, and I'll lead it off with a precursor for everybody. I've not had an opportunity to read this book. However, I know that the three gentlemen who are joining us tonight all have. So I'll be asking a lot of questions that will probably, seem pretty basic to you who are listening, especially if you haven't read the book, then maybe I'll be asking the questions you might too. And
so are we trying to convince you to read the book? Is that what we're doing?
Yeah, that might be a good thing. And it also might be more of a, that morbid curiosity in me. I'm not afraid of spoilers. By the way, I guess we should do spoiler alert for those of us who haven't read the book.
It's really not a lot of spoilers.
Yeah.
The book came out in
2001.
Yeah.
If you haven't read it by now.
Look at the way he looked at when he said that, Terry.
I know. Like, come on.
Shit. Terry, a Klingon read something you didn't. How do you feel about yourself right now?
Yeah, pretty lame, actually.
Yeah.
I'm pretty lousy. Now, I have my first question is going to be to actually Nick. Nick, is the Gateway series the one that kind of launched you into reading again? Or am I confusing that with something else?
Into reading in general?
No, I'm just reading Star Trek, I'm sorry.
Yeah, it actually is. It was like January 2005, and I was in Iraq, and we had been there for like 2 months, and I wanted to, normally I read like biographies and history and stuff like that, but I wanted something different to read, and someone had left 4 of the Gateways books behind, and there's 7 in the series, so I got on the internet, and that's when I said to the Navy lieutenant, I think I've told you the story, Terry, I was like, hey, do you think there's anything about Star Trek on online? And he just, because he was a Trekkie, and he just kind of looked at me. I could still see the look, and he said, oh, Sergeant, 2 things built the internet: Star Trek and porn. So that's,
and it's true.
Yeah.
It's true.
And then I found Star Trek porn, but that's a whole different show. And I found StarTrek.com. I figured, all right, I'll just go to Google. I put it, in the old Google machine. And put in Google, and StarTrek.com was at the top, so I went there, and lo and behold, they had some forums. So I put a post in the forum, because if you remember, they used to have the literature section, where you could talk about the books and
right.
all of that. And I said, hey, I'm currently serving, in Baghdad, and if somebody has the 3, here's the 4 that someone else left behind, and if anybody else has the other 3, books, I'd be more than happy to send you a check to cover, shipping and handling and whatever, $5-10, whatever you want for the books, because I figured,
Yeah.
if somebody's going to send that. And that's when the lovely and talented David Mack responded and sent me an email and said, not only will I not let you pay me for them, I work at Sci-Fi, because at the time that's where he worked, and he said, I've got some other stuff to send you, and I wound up getting like 3 big boxes of science fiction and fantasy books from the people at Sci-Fi, and Dave Mack, and we built a sci-fi library in the Coalition Press office.
That's awesome.
This is
what a great
Sci-Fi,
story.
not Sci-Fi?
Yes, this is back when it was Sci-Fi, before it became syphilis.
Before they sold out.
Well, but they're buying back in because they're seeing which way the wind is going and what wasn't working, and now they're making more original shows.
We can only hope.
Bring back alphas.
Yeah, and that on the heels of the announcement that Almost Human was canceled yesterday on NBC.
Not surprised. The ratings.
I mean, Fox.
Yeah,
Fox.
the ratings didn't justify it, and it was a damn expensive show to make.
And I liked it too.
But that's the
I
problem.
know.
A show is so expensive.
Yeah.
It was heavy on effects, but I kind of getting back to Gateways. Now, Nick, did you wait to read?
No, because I had books 1 and 2, and then I think 3, 4,
so you
and
had
7.
one on you. Okay.
Yeah, I had 2 of them there, so I started reading them. And I wasn't even halfway through the first one when Dave's boxes arrived. So that was a really good thing. And I read the Gateway series. Now I'm going to tell you at least one of the books that I got maybe a couple of chapters into it, and there was no resonation with me at all, like nothing. It was the New Earth story that they had, but you know what the Gateway series did, ironically, was I wound up within the next 4 or 5 months owning every season on DVD because I hadn't seen Voyager, I hadn't seen Deep Space Nine, so to read those novels, I had no idea who the characters were, so I had to watch them. I started reading the New Frontier series because I was like, who the hell's Mackenzie Calhoun? What the hell is that? So, I had these different things going on. So the Gateway series was my gateway back into Trek.
Oh, that's apropos.
Yeah.
I think it's great. Now,
The first ones are free, but after that you have to pay.
and boy, did he ever, to the point where he's now a co-host of a Star Trek podcast.
Yeah. Not feeling really good about myself at this point.
Now, Midnight, I have my question to you is I know that one of the aspects of the Book of the Celestial Temple has been, why don't we read the first books of a lot of the series that were published by Pocket for the Star Trek franchise. Were you drawn to Gateways at all, or was this more of I'll read it because it just happens to be the first book of a series?
For me, basically, I've been reading as we've gone along for the book club. The only time that has differed is when it came to reading the Fall and reading the second book of the Voyager one, which I just wanted to do. But apart from that, I've basically just been following the book club as we go along. So I am the person who's not read any of these books apart from really what we tend to cover here.
Cool. Now, for those of our listeners, the Gateway series was published by Pocket Books in 2001, and it does contain a series of 7 books, the first book of which we're going to be discussing tonight, called One Small Step by Susan Wright, and it is a TOS-based book, correct?
Yeah,
That's right.
The books came out pretty much in the order of the series. So the first was a TOS, and the second one was a New Earth / Challenger, which takes place between the motion picture and the Wrath of Khan during the second 5-year mission.
Oh, interesting.
And then that was the one I couldn't read at all. And that one, ironically, was an author a lot of people love, but Terry, you and I have discussed it. Diane Carey, her stuff just does not resonate with me, and she's one of a lot of people's favorite authors.
Right.
I just didn't connect with it. But and then there was TNG, DS9, Voyager, New Frontier novel, and then the final book, number 7, was What Lay Beyond. Each book ended on a cliffhanger, So each book had their cliffhanger, had it answered
In the final book.
in the seventh. Yeah, and then there
Okay.
was an epilogue with the Corps of Engineers called "Here There Be Monsters."
And who? Okay, so
Oh,
there is an
cool.
epilogue. Now, is the epilogue a full-length novel, or is it like
It's
a?
it's by Keith, our friend Keith DeCanado, and it was an ebook.
Oh, okay.
An ebook in November 2001. Now let's think
Right.
about that. This is where they were ahead of the curve.
That's when you actually had to read them on like your computer, rather
yeah.
than on an ebook reader.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, it was SC ebook number 10. What Gateways epilogue? Here There Be Monsters.
Very interesting.
Wow, right on.
Yeah, they were ahead of the curve on the ebook thing.
So, sorry, Mike. I know
Yes.
that I'm asking kind of the same question of all three of you, and that is, I know that you probably read Gateways or One Small Step because of the book club, but
Yep.
I also know that you've been, really throwing yourself into a lot of the novels and reading quite a bit of Star Trek over the past few months. Did you find? I'll guess I'll ask you the first question right off the bat. How did you find the book overall, as far as being able to draw you into what is apparently a pretty, intense storyline that leaves you at a cliffhanger?
Well, see, that's the thing. When I was reading it, I was like, I know this episode. I know this episode. What episode is it? And I knew it was a TOS episode. I just couldn't pinpoint what it was, but I knew everything that had happened, in the original story. And then reading this, it was like, I'm seeing more of what happened, kind of like behind the scenes or, between scenes, so to speak. So I thought that was really, really cool, really unique. And then when I got to the end and it ended on a cliffhanger, I was like, no! But yeah, it was really good, considering the challenges.
Now, it's been a while since I've read them. Like, if I remember, each one ended with somebody going through an Iconian gateway.
Well, I've only read the first one in this series.
Yeah, that ended with somebody going through,
yes,
right?
Yes,
Yeah,
I believe
each
it
one
was
ended
Kirk.
like that. Yeah,
Yeah.
each one ends with somebody going through an Iconian gateway.
Are these actually Iconian gateways, though?
Right, because the Iconian gateway,
Because these are
which if you're a
Calandans.
Star Trek Online player, that they're kind of important at this point.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, as Steve was saying, in this book, they're called the Calandarans, something along those lines. So it's not quite, but that's
It isn't clear to the reader, is what you're saying, that they are Iconian gateways.
Yeah.
the species that claims that it belongs to them is this Calandans, but it could be even older. It could be Iconian. I mean, just because the technology does mirror what we know of the Iconians.
But the thing is even in this book, I think it was either Bones or Kirk mention about 4 different races that have transporters like this. So they probably weren't even Iconian gateways. We know Iconians have a big network, but that came from TNG rather than TOS, from what I understand.
No, they're Iconian gateways.
Yeah, they are.
Okay.
Now, the only reason I know that is because that's what all of the information that I have up to help me ask questions says. So, Memory Alpha, Memory Beta, all of them list the overview of the fact that these are Iconian gateways scattered throughout the galaxy, and that an alien claiming to be the long-lost Iconians have contacted the major powers of the Alpha Quadrant, pretty much trying to sell the secrets of the gateways to the highest bidder. Now, whether or not the species is Iconian, I don't know, because they didn't say. It's just the gateways apparently are. So here's a question to all three of you, and that is, Susan Wright is somebody I've never read before. And I guess my question, I'm just going to throw it out to the three of you. One thing that we all really appreciate about Star Trek writing are those authors who can speak true to voice of a character. And we all know that, Kirk can be pretty hard to write. So can McCoy and Spock. How did she do?
I found this book quite dry, and really I felt a lot of the characters were basically whiny bitches, to be honest. Even the red shirt, was it Ryan Hart, just spent most of his time sort of like really worried, and I didn't really connect to the characters as much as I have with a lot of the other novels.
Mike, what about you?
Let's see. There were moments when I definitely saw the individuals' characters come out. But I think I was more distracted by trying to figure out what episode this was. Um,
You couldn't just Google it, Mike?
No.
not at the time, no. Reading from bed. But I think there were moments when the characters did come out. I just didn't, you know. I was more involved in the story, trying to figure out, okay, where is all this going? You know, and getting closer to the end, it's like, okay, they have to resolve this somehow in the next 10 pages or whatever, and it's like, no.
And she pulled
Yes,
a
a fast one.
Empire Strikes Back on you. Nick, what about you?
Yeah, I agree with Steve. I found it very dour.
Okay.
I didn't feel like she had a good handle on the characters. Now, her characterizations of the alien species were cool. I thought she did that really well. It was like the stuff that she was making up was
He
well
had heart
done,
in.
but the established characters not so much.
That's interesting. Some people do have difficulty, you know, playing in someone else's sandbox, so to speak.
Yeah, I mean they can't all be James Swallow.
And that, ladies and gentlemen, was called a on-air suck-up.
I mean, I didn't say dating.
No, I would.
Well, of course.
That would be me, you know.
You'd be sucking up.
Dating.
Well, he's probably not mentioning Dayton because he's probably forgotten to send the next Ask Dayton out as well.
Oh, it's already to him.
Yay!
He even commented on it.
Thank you, Mike.
Did he?
He hasn't responded to it, but he's commented.
So I guess my question to now to all three of you is, knowing that this wasn't I've heard dry, and was it just the fact that you don't think that she had a good grasp on, you know, the emotion or the impetus of those characters, or is it, you know, or do you think that did it come off like she knew these characters over the course of their existence like we do from watching the show so much, or did you get the impression that maybe she had only seen the one episode?
I think she'd seen about as many TOS episodes as I had, which is not a lot. I just didn't really get a feel for the characters, and from what I do know of the characters, it didn't sort of seem like them sort of either. Not to mention, she didn't really use much of the Enterprise crew as well, and some of the Enterprise crew she did use I'd never heard of either. So she introduced sort of new crew rather than using sort of all the other crew that we've got, and sort of people who've sort of grown to love. So, because mainly the people that we had from the Enterprise was literally Kirk, Bones, and Scotty. And
so Noah Hura.
no, they very rarely did we see her. Same with Sulu. Just they were in it very, very little. And yeah, I just didn't get the feel of the characters that I have been, because I have, since starting to read Vanguard, I did sort of get more into the TOS. So I've started watching that with my 6-year-old, and I've been watching some more of them. But what I've seen on TV and what I've read in like the Vanguard books, I just didn't get that connection with the characters, and I didn't really see the characters within her writing.
Terry, I guess the best way I can describe it, they came across as the same way the lines were delivered in the animated series.
Oh wow, okay, that actually makes sense to me. So yeah, interesting, very interesting. And you know what though, I have to say that that was part of the reason why I had such a difficult time reading Star Trek prior to 2007. Was, again, I had a very difficult time seeing those characters. Now, I was never a real big fan of the original series. I loved it, but not to that point of fandom. TNG was that show that brought that out of me. So I was much pickier about how TNG characters were written.
Yeah, I mean, I'll put it in putting it in an honest assessment. the characterizations of the crew that we know are 180 degrees from, say, That Which Divides, the Dayton Ward book,
Okay.
which was also based on this race from That Which Survives, if you remember.
Okay.
I think has Susan Wright written much in the way of Star Trek novels at all?
She's written 9 Star Trek novels.
It's just, I think there's one part where it's sort of like Sulu saluted before heading away. I'm just thinking,
I don't have a problem with that, though.
but it's just
I didn't have a problem with that because Sulu had made it like, if you remember in the episode, somebody help me out, where they go back to the 1960s and they go down to the Air Force Base to get the film, the one with Captain John Christopher.
Oh, wow. God, I don't remember.
Return
I know
to
it's
Tomorrow? I think it was Return to Tomorrow.
Tomorrow is yesterday?
No, I think Tomorrow's Yesterday was the next to last episode of the entire series. I think it was Return to Tomorrow, where they go to the Air Force Base. And Sulu goes down with Kirk. And, so I didn't have a problem with that because when I remember reading it, that it wasn't like a crisp Sulu. It was more like a...
half-hearted, or not half-hearted, but casual, more casual.
Yeah, like a aye, aye, sir.
Okay, more like an affectation or a symbol of affection as opposed to a required salute.
Yeah.
Okay, I do that to my boss all the time. I do. You can ask him.
I just slip back slacks in my boss's coffee.
Aren't you a joy? So I guess my next question to you three is, who is your favorite character, original or not, that you went, oh yeah, I could follow more of that person?
From the book?
Yeah.
To be honest, I don't think I have one. Usually I do, but in this book, I can't name one at all.
Were there many action sequences in the book?
Not really.
There was a lot of scanning in this book.
Yeah, it was kind of drawn out. I mean, you were touring through this facility over and over again, and they were looking for passageways that had no doors until they unlocked something, and so you're going back and forth over the same
not unlike a
material,
slow mission
like.
where you're walking around and having to find these things to unlock doors and stuff, right, guys? I mean,
yeah. But you just got a lot of scanning, a lot of was it Sulu saying that his arm still hurts, a lot of Reinhardt being really worried that anything comes around the corner that is going to come and kill him, and it's just like, really.
Well, and I will say that was a good thing. The book picks up immediately after the episode ends.
I suppose for me, I haven't seen that episode.
Right.
So for me, this was a completely new story.
And that's why with Sulu saying his arm hurts, because there's a part in the episode where Lee Merriweather, her power, she touches somebody and it kills them. And she had touched Sulu's arm and it caused like amazing pain because she had to like get a grip on somebody. So yeah, that I didn't mind. And yeah, it starts off with them going back to the Enterprise, and the Kalandan, that's the alien race there. It flings the Enterprise. One of those. Flings them across
the universe.
About 1,000 light years away, isn't it?
Oh, kind of like a Q slingshot.
Yeah. And Kirk, Spock, McCoy, and Sulu are stranded on the planet.
Kirk, Spock, McCoy, and Sulu. Okay.
Because they were the ones that were down on the planet at the end of the episode.
I see. And then they're kind of down on the planet.
Yeah, they're stuck with Reinhardt. Is the other one with them, isn't it?
Yeah, and that's where Steve said and Mike said they start to explore the complex. They're killing time, but they're explorers. So what are you going to do? You're going to explore this ancient complex that they were at.
And so all of this kind of put into perspective, I have to ask Nick. Nick, how the heck did you move on to book 2? Did you just say, okay?
He didn't have any other books with him.
I finished it and I thought, I wasn't really sure what to think. I got to tell you, it wasn't the best representative of Trek novelization or Trek novels and then I moved on to book 2, the one by Diane Carey, which I got like 3 chapters in and was like, I just can't. And then picked up book 3, which was the TNG one, and that one rang very true. the characterizations and everything. So I slogged my way through the first one. I did something I rarely do and didn't even get halfway through the second one. And then I kind of got hooked from the third one on.
And seeing as though you had, and at this point in your life, you had not seen any DS9, correct?
I had seen maybe 1 or 2 episodes of the first season. I had seen the pilot, and I had seen 1 or 2 regular episodes. But, that was on. I was in Korea and then, a whole bunch of stuff, so I didn't really get a chance to see it. Voyager hadn't seen, so as the DVDs were coming in, I'm trying to catch up on these series so I can understand,
who these people were.
Who the hell is Bashir? Why is this Major Kira acting like this? Wait, what is this doctor? What are they talking about?
Oh, in Voyager. Okay.
Yeah, and then freaking New Frontiers, I got on the old Google machine. I was like, wait a minute, this is a whole nother book series? And by the time I left Iraq, I had read that entire series that was out up to that point.
Oh,
the
wow.
New Frontier series.
And for our listeners who may not know, the New Frontier series is an original Star Trek series with all original characters that was written
not
by
all
Peter...
original, but
there's
original...
references and we know that there's a few characters, but really the whole...
The commander.
The
XO, though, was Elizabeth Shelby.
Oh, yeah, Shelby. She rocks. And that was all written by Peter David, correct?
Yes.
The
Peter David.
The Peter David. Kind of getting back to Gateway. Sorry, what about you? What was your favorite character or sequence in this book?
Well, my favorite character sequence is when the Klingons show up, ready to kick some butt.
And don't.
And don't, because the Kalandan vessel shows up and completely wipes them out.
Oh my goodness.
Well, the Klingons were beaten up on the Enterprise, and the enemy of my enemy, so the Klandans, decided to help out the Enterprise, and so he wiped out the Klingons.
This book is a lot better than I remember now that you remind me of that.
Well, it wasn't so much that they were helping out the Federation.
No, they weren't helping out.
The Purple saw them as the way to get in to the facility to get the technology.
Starfleet at the moment was in control of the facility, so the only way for them to get in was to kind of cooperate
assure
with the
that
Federation.
Safety and okay, so there was an interior motive.
Yeah. So, they blew up the Klingon vessel, but not before a distress call was sent out.
The thing is, as I said at the beginning, I just felt most of the characters were just like whiny little bitches, which included the Klingon captain. You spent the first part of getting to know that captain with him just whinging in his own sort of crew quarters, hitting the wall. It's just like, come on,
whinging?
you're supposed to be Klingon.
What is whinging?
Complaining.
Okay, I don't speak British.
Well, it's called English for a reason. Learn it, mate.
Like I said, I don't speak British. Whinging. I'm so used to that.
They use it in Harry Potter too. Doesn't he live in Little Whinging?
I don't know. I've not read or watched them.
Oh, sorry, honey. And okay, so we got Klingon. So it sounds like to me we've got the basics of a good TOS story, though. I mean, you got the good character, the main set of characters, Klingons coming in,
it had real potential. It really did.
Yeah, it sounds like it.
And I would love to see somebody like Dayton or Swallow who has a real feel for the TOS crew.
The voice.
Yeah, the voice of the original series crew to have tackled it. And Dayton, That Which Divides, like I said, it does deal with the same kind of, with all that. And wait a minute, that's the book I died in.
And there's...
Son of a bitch. So Swallow would do an amazing job.
Well, we talked about
there
this
is
once
a nice, because there's the intrigue, because like Steve said, what's his name? Petrol's leader, Tasm, Tasm,
Yeah.
Tasm, her tactics are pretty cool to impersonate the Kalandans and claim
a species that neither one of them had met or knew anything about. They were all impersonating. The Kalandans were actually impersonating
Right. So she uses that to trick the Starfleet people to learn what they can about the base. Which, I like that take on it.
Is what got me is you could see from her she's asking about all these questions and looking into all these things, and I actually made a note. It must have been about a third of the way through when sort of Kirk saying among all these belongings they're finding all these sort of interface cards but can't find anywhere to put them. And I'm thinking, why don't you just ask, is it Lucira?
Luz, L-U-Z?
No, the alien, the one where they'd got the duplicates that were killing people, and then it was the computer interface, Losira, Lucira?
Yeah.
The recording. And it's just you've got the artificial intelligence recording of that commander of the actual base they're in.
Oh,
Why not ask? And of course, what does Tasm go and do? She goes in and sits in the chair and just asks a simple question about, and this is sort of 3/4 of the way through the book. It's just thank you, someone has actually asked a simple question. It's the same with Bones, the actual vaccine. It's just why didn't I think of that? It's just yep, something else nice and simple nobody actually thought of thinking of.
That is true. What Steve is saying is very true. It's kind of like Kirk had been denied several times when he asked, for assistance, but from the computer, the AI, until someone was smart enough to sit in the chair, and then after that. Tasm was there, and she was watching him like a hawk, so he couldn't actually do anything without tipping the hand. And he was already kind of suspicious of her, but he was trying to cooperate because if it turned out that she was who she said she was, he didn't want to ruin a good thing for the Federation.
Huh.
Yeah, it's just so funny. It's
so,
just
Steve, did you consider that a plot hole or hurdle, or just sloppy characterization?
I took it as a way that she used to sort of drag out the book, to be honest. It's just you could very easily just sort of ask a question. It's just why aren't you just asking? We have these interface cards. Where do they go? He knows that he can't ask where this is or how to get to that or how this works because it all requires the defense computer. But asking simple questions... Yeah, which they blew up right at the beginning.
In the episode, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
and,
okay. Oh, okay.
You remember the giant glowing square, Terry?
Yeah.
Yeah, that.
Okay.
So it was just why not just ask simple questions what else is there in this complex? Sort of, how long has it been here? So I'm just thinking, why aren't they asking very, very simple questions, as they can't get sort of specific ones for sort of knowing sort of how things work and that. They're investigating and looking around, trying to find doors. And at one point, I think they're moving a few steps to the right and saying a word, hoping that a secret door will open. And I'm just thinking, you could just ask, please, just sort of ask, and
computer,
they didn't.
Open door, please. Well, Terry, and this is a line from the book.
All right.
We're told that there is a grid that measures 3.94 meters by 2 meters. And that's it. There's nothing that we need to know about the grid. It never really comes up again. Well, hey, thanks.
And she does it a couple of times, because then when they find the big chamber with the arch, she does stuff about the heights and widths then, and it's just the height and width of the room or the grids, and nothing else comes into it. And it's just
exactly.
It's, as I said, it's just her sort of dragging it out as if she's got she's trying to hit a word limit.
Interesting. Might be, would have been.
Which is interesting too, because that was what I didn't like about the second book, was Diane Carey is very good at describing the scene, and you're walking through a ship and there's all this, the hull of the ship is wet and there's plants growing on the inside of it, and you're in an arboretum type thing, and she's very good at describing what that's like and the smells and all of that. But unlike this book, she goes way too far over describing.
Yeah.
You need that middle ground.
Yeah. In Star Trek in particular, which tends to be, appeals to people, let's face it, who want a book like they want their show. And that is, give me a little bit of cerebral discussion. You don't have to have a fancy set, and give me a little bit of action and a good resolution.
This book was definitely a series 3 episode. I'm sorry, season 3.
So was the episode.
Exactly. And that's,
So
this was a season 3 episode. This book.
I think the biggest thing that I felt was completely out of character was the bit, well, where is it? This is actually from the book. She was trying to seduce him, and it might have worked, except for that kiss. It's just like, hang on, Kirk kisses every woman he sees. How is it that just because this woman kissed him, this thing didn't seem right? It's just like...
I think it goes back to the episode because of the Lee Merriweather character in that.
I never get, did Kirk make his a lot of, and it's one thing that I am as picky as I am about my characterizations. The one thing I will never ever give Kirk grief over is the quote unquote womanizing thing. I never gave his character that kind of, then again, I have a personal thing about that. I never gave him that man whore title. I never thought of him as ever using a woman. I always thought that he genuinely cared.
Oh no, in the one where everybody's frozen or turned into little cubes. He totally uses her to make the other guy jealous. And that episode, if you think about it,
you're right about that.
That's one of the few times they ever actually show him getting laid. Because when they come back, she's combing her hair and he's putting his boots back on. That's like the only time there's ever the actual inference that he slept with somebody. Just saying.
You're right about that.
Just saying.
Yeah.
But, okay, for the men and women out there listening, okay, for all this Kirk is a man whore shit, you put yourself in his shoes. Really? You're going to say no? Please. Just step off. Okay? I'm trying to think of her name.
I never thought of him as him ever really kind of going out and intentionally using women. I always thought of him as kind of that woman lover kind of thing.
You know, it's pretty, somebody's pretty hot when my lady Janice, who does not say things about women, goes, oh yeah, the girl in, the one with Roger Corby and Rock where they're androids. It's a first season episode with Christine Chappell.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, when Janice was like, oh, I can so understand him sleeping with her. Yeah, because she was hot. And she wasn't just hot, she was hot. So all of you back off, okay?
So
Kirk's
Steve,
a lonely man in space.
Within the book, if I'm getting this right, she describes the kiss from the episode. And he said the seduction would have worked if it wasn't for that kiss. So it was a bad kiss?
I think there was a kiss in the book as well.
Oh,
yeah.
With one of the leader, or one of the, I think it was the leader of the so-called Kalandans. Yeah.
Because basically she is flirting with him, brushes against him, goes to kiss him, and because she's trying to seduce him, and all of a sudden he's almost like taking offence about it, and is very sort of like off-put about it, and it's just like, this is Kirk, he would have just gone for it. Everything that I've seen for him...
Not if you see the episode, because the episode that is the immediate follow-up, that which survives, when the woman came after somebody, it was to kill them. But she had to be... So, like, let's say Steve, Mike, and I are all in a room, and I kiss her, but she's only... what she would say was, I am here for you, Steve. I am meant for you. That's who she would be deadly against. So it wouldn't do anything to me, but if she touched you, it would kill you. But so remember that he's only a few days removed from that, and it's a Kalandan that had done that and the whole thing. So okay. And he had lost some crew members.
But then at this point, they know it is the ring on the clone's finger that was doing it, and that they've damaged the computer and no more can be created. So they know he's not in any danger. And
this is
the book...
in regards to the person itself, not the defense simulations or whatever. Kirk he didn't trust her. There was something about her, and the kiss was just a little bit unexpected. It was out of context. It seemed as if she was trying too hard to make it happen.
So in other words, he caught on to her game.
He was on to her. He knew that something wasn't right, and that kind of soured him to the kiss and everything else. He knew that it wasn't right. Maybe it was because he didn't
figured out he was getting used.
Maybe it was because he wasn't the one instigating it. Who knows?
You're
But,
right.
you know,
Not unlike Spock with the Romulan commander in the Enterprise incident.
Absolutely. That was
Mhm.
brilliant.
And you have to remember that was, that's the same season, so it's in the same time frame. Something that they had just set up too.
The thing is everything that I know of Kirk is that he wouldn't have, for me, I would have thought he wouldn't have brushed away, that he would have gone with it and tried to use it to his advantage rather than sort of being offended. That's what got me, is he didn't act as what I thought Kirk would act. Because sort of, a woman kisses him, he would kiss back, whether or not he likes her or not. He would try and take advantage of the situation, especially if he doesn't trust someone. That is what
He
got
would
me.
he would kiss back in the hopes that he would flush out the.
Exactly, but the thing is, he didn't. He didn't use that situation to try and get closer to her. It put distance between them. And if he's so distrustful of her, I thought he would have reacted completely the opposite. That's what I didn't get.
Or keep your friends close, but
Yeah.
enemies closer.
Yeah. And everything that I've seen of TOS and what I've read in things like Vanguard and some of the other stuff that I've read on TOS is that is how Kirk would react. But in this book, he doesn't, which is what I meant when I said it's just very dry, and I just really don't think she got the characters at all. And especially that part, I think that was probably one of the biggest character flaws that she'd actually written in this book, because I thought she could have written a lot more about him trying to sort of do the seduction back on her and trying to use that to get more information out of her, to try and trip her up. But there's just none of it.
I will tell you something that she did well. She didn't try and change the characters we know.
Oh, okay.
There was no.
Yeah, we've seen that happen before.
Right. There was no, Spock falls in love with a young boy, or you know what I mean. None of the. She stayed true to them in that form.
Yeah.
Oh, I kind of see what Steve was saying. But again, here's someone that is quite literally imposing herself into this whole situation. Not only are they waiting for the Enterprise to arrive for some time, when all of a sudden someone who claims to be the person that the rightful heir to this facility shows up out of the blue when they were supposed to be extinct. It's like all of these suspicious things are just one after another building, and yet she has never really proven that she's who she says she is. She's always she doesn't come out and all of a sudden start running the place. She's always step back, always watching, always letting Kirk take the lead, and then when he can't do it, that's when she tries what he didn't. It's like it's all these different situations where I would be suspicious. It's like, are you really who you say you are, or are you just manipulating it? And then all of a sudden, she throws herself at him, and it's like, wait a minute. So
yeah, well, I can understand that. I can. I think it. I mean, I'm still interested in reading this series mainly because I think I would really want to see. I would want to see what happens with the TNG characters, the DS9 characters, in the later books in 3 and 4. Maybe even Voyager, and how, because all of this crosses over, correct? I mean, they're all dealing with Iconian gates.
Yes.
And they're all resolved in the final book.
Yes.
I think would you say that it would be possible to pick up one book and then the last book, or would you have to read all 7?
No. You could read like just the DS9 novel and then read the DS9 ending in book 7.
Okay. That might be fun. You can still get the books. I'm assuming you can still get the books on ebook through
yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
your favorite ebook sellers and kind of pick up from there. I myself would probably start with book 1 just because it would interest me to hear. I would actually want to read it just to see how my opinions might differ from yours as far as characterization and style, just for like I said, my own gross curiosity.
I've got a question for Mike and Nick. We talked earlier on about sort of how she did really well with the alien race, the pet whore, is it? Yeah, the purple, I think it is. The only bit that got me, what happened right at the end with Luz taking the technology or trying to take parts of the technology, but things just weren't long enough and things like that. I just felt that bit got a bit silly in a way. So I'm just interested what your two thoughts were.
Well, with Luz, what she the way that the Kalandans, or this particular race that impersonating the Kalandans, the way that their organization was set up is they select a leader for a mission, and whoever is that leader, the rest of the team or the rest of the group has to follow. And it happened to be Tasm's turn to be the leader. Just like drawing lots, and she's the one that got the short stick. So so here she is. She's in charge. She's doing things that Luz totally disagrees with. Luz, who I guess it might be a little bit more experienced, or at least dealing with certain types of situations, she has an alternate idea of what they should be doing, and as a result, she kind of just takes one step after another to kind of sort of manipulate or kind of work against TASM and what TASM's trying to do. And then ultimately, she just, doesn't she like blow it? Doesn't she completely kind of like screw up and almost reveal that they're not who they really are? And then I don't think anyone caught it or kind of dismissed it. And then
yeah, she's talking about the dead. She basically said that I think they buried them or something, when in actual fact the Kalandans, from all the stuff that Tasm had read and had been in their little network, had basically found out that they basically kept the Kalandans who they're impersonating, they kept their dead and experimented on afterwards.
Interesting.
Would you guys agree that this book could have been done in half the amount of pages it took?
Yes.
At least, yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
I think it could have actually...
Could have been about 120 pages.
Yeah,
it
could have been
a really
expanded
good novella.
out.
Yeah.
Or if they added a lot more to it, more story elements, more action, more, reworked it possibly, but just the core story itself that they were she was trying to tell, a novella is really what it should have been.
It's interesting, isn't it? When you read a book like that and you think, God, I could have told this in half the time and better.
Well, it's like Script Doctor and Terry, Okay,
Yeah,
I would have taken this scene out. I would have taken that scene out.
Yeah.
There was a lot of repetition, and although I enjoyed it, Steve keeps going back, pointing out, comparing it to like Vanguard. Well, this was so much earlier than Vanguard and whatnot, and it's a different author, but I still enjoyed the story. For the most part, again, it does have its flaws. It could have been shorter. It could have been more direct. I would have liked to see the Klingons a little bit more, less grumpy, because the commander was kind of nuts from the get-go. But
yeah.
So
he reminded me of the Klingon commander that the Voyager came across. Remember those Klingons that had been in stasis for all those years?
Oh, that was in Voyager.
Voyager, yeah, that Voyager came across.
They weren't in stasis. They were.
There's a generation ship.
Oh, the generation ship. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a generational ship.
But yeah, like that. Like
yeah.
Totally. And the Enterprise crew seemed to regard. It was like she was a bigger fan of Next Generation, because they kind of looked at the Klingons not the way Kirk would, and of course, but more
TNG
like
would.
Yeah, the way they regarded them.
It was kind of weird with the Klingons, because they referred the crew were not followers of Kahless. Okay, so it's kind of like most of the crew dates back to to TOS, while the captain is TNG era, kind of.
Exactly.
He's pro Kahless. He's a Klingon that we know. Whereas the rest of the crew weren't. So it was kind of like this weird dichotomy that put the crew against the captain, and that's why he was yelling at the walls, and I thought it could have been better, but
Terry, I'm going to shock you with what I'm going to say. The Klingons could have been represented a lot better.
Okay, no, you didn't shock me, because
if they had gone the Kang or the Core or the Koloth route with the Klingon crew, I would have been ecstatic, because those guys rocked balls.
Right.
but it was like we almost had a Martok amongst non-believers. It would be almost like, boy, I hate to say this, but like a deeply Muslim captain with a crew full of non-believers in Allah. Would you agree,
Yeah.
Mike?
Interesting.
Yeah, I mean, it was very odd, and of course, you know, they got blown up, and it was like, I was
Yeah, they
kind of
showed
glad.
they
It was
deserved
like,
better. They deserved
yeah,
better.
it's like, okay, no glory for you guys. You guys will rot in Grethor.
Wow. Yeah,
It
that's
was,
that is kind of sad. So it also seems like either she was confused or or she was trying to inject a little bit of the later personifications of
I think she
Klingon
might
into
have
an
been
earlier
trying to
form.
bridge the two. Trying to
Yeah.
bridge the two is what she
Because
was
I think
trying
she
to
does
do.
Yeah.
like TNG, because there's a section on there where Tasm asks Kirk, "Do you have children living on the Enterprise?" And he says no. That he felt it was too dangerous for a ship that explores unknown territory. So it reminded me of sort of Picard in the very early episodes of TNG and sort
Yeah,
of
but
the thing about having kids on board.
that attitude for Kirk makes a lot more sense.
Oh yeah, no, I didn't mean it was a bad thing for Kirk, but
No,
what I meant is
I didn't take it that way.
referring that to the TNG era and that
Oh,
she may
yeah.
have liked it, because that was the sort of
That's-
conversation that sort of you would have had with sort of Picard and
That's
that
a
sort
good
of thought.
observation.
So
Yeah.
it really reminded me of TNG when I read it, because I actually made a note that it reminds me of the beginning of TNG with Picard and kids. And so yeah, when you sort of said that she may have liked sort of the TNG era quite a bit because of like the Klingons and things, sort of especially with that part in the book, it's sort of TNG may be more of a thing.
Very well could be. Again, it would be very difficult. I would have a very difficult time because I tend to be, as a reader, more connected, and as a viewer, more connected to the TNG characters. I would think that I would find a very difficult time finding the true voice of Kirk and Spock and McCoy and Scotty and Uhura. I think I would have a challenging time trying to find that true voice because I'm just not as emotionally connected to those characters as I am TNG.
Or even having grown up on the original, I don't think I think I might be able to do a mediocre job at writing the original crew. I don't think, as they've been presented, I could write a passable, not a slam, on the JJ crew. Because with the exception of McCoy, I don't understand most of their motivations.
And that goes straight to what I think I was talking about, is that there are those that we, and we as fans are sensitive to that, and it's very easy for us to pick it out from an author. Don't you
I
agree?
don't see Shatkerk taking an apple into the Kobayashi Maru just to be a dick.
Yeah, well,
I
either.
don't see that because it's never how he was portrayed. As a matter of
Right.
fact, Gary Mitchell said he was a computer with legs back
Right.
at the academy.
Right.
So that's not saying. I thought Chris Pine was great, but I don't understand his Kirk, the
Right.
brat that he is. So I don't think I could write him. And
Well,
that's where I think the comic book guys are doing a great job. They really are doing a good job capturing those guys.
I agree with you wholeheartedly there. Mike, I mean, we've talked about this before, and Steve, I think we've touched on it before, or you may have heard us talk about it on the main show before. And that is, sometimes you just come across an author that sings to you, especially with either a group of characters or maybe even a singular character. All of a sudden, it's like, I'm sorry, and I'll say it over and over and over again. To date, I have yet to find an author who can write the Titan crew that sings to me the way that James Swallow does. Now, I happen to think that Dayton Ward has some kind of freakish connection to the Kirk era crew.
Kristen Byers got the Voyager crew down.
We've all come across them.
And
For some
Una
reason,
with
with
Garrick
Garrick.
and DS9.
Oh God,
Most
yeah.
definitely,
So-
yes.
And that's not to say that David Mack doesn't have the ability to write those characters as well and just as good. But there are sometimes it's a personal thing, right? Sometimes your personal understanding of a character is going to sync up with an author more for you than it would be for another. Like maybe somebody else doesn't like the way that Dayton writes Kirk, but likes the way, David Mack does.
Well, the thing is even though I sort of disagreed with many ways that sort of this book was written and some of the characters were portrayed, I still didn't find it a bad book. I still enjoyed it. I've only had one book where I've struggled to read it, which has been The Needs of the Many, on which I still haven't finished that book. And I started that a year ago. So far, that's been the only book where I've struggled, but with this one, I didn't. I still wanted to find out what was going on next.
Needs of the Many is the Stowe book, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, I know.
You have to have multiple personalities and to get to quite understand that one.
I thought that the only part that really, really got nailed in that was Janeway. I thought that Andy really had...
Michael, not
I'm
Andy.
sorry. I keep saying Andy. I'm so sorry, Michael Martin. That really had Janeway down.
And I'd say 7 as well, because I think he got that character sort of very well written.
Yeah, the Voyager crew.
Yeah.
I gave up after Pardspawn.
I think that's where I've got up to. But as I said, sort of that book I've struggled with and I haven't yet finished. But although sort of I've been sort of picking at sort of things I felt were wrong with it, I didn't feel that the entire book was completely wrong and a complete waste of time. It was still an interesting story, and sort of as we've said, it leaves on a cliffhanger, and it's just like, oh, I want to read book 2. Although I now know that book 2 doesn't actually continue with that story, so...
Yeah, that's what was kind of surprising to me when I read about this, when I was going to ask, putting together, trying to come up with at least a combined effort to ask you guys some questions, so at least I could find out for myself. Now, Nick, because you've read book 2, you said that it's more like New Earth. You said it's called Challenger?
Yeah, Challenger. It takes place with the Enterprise... on the Challenger, and it's in between the motion picture and the Wrath of Khan. I totally didn't. Yeah, I really couldn't tell you anything about it.
I thought it was interesting because Memory Alpha, when you bring up Star Trek Gateways, has this sentence in the paragraph about it. It says, the crossover involved the crews of all of the major novel series active at the time, including the, quote, abortive launch of Star Trek Challenger. Did that mean that they were actually thinking about starting a series of Challenger books? Or
yes.
Okay. Interesting. I did not know that. And I guess
evidently I wasn't the only one that didn't care for it.
Apparently not.
I agree with something. See, I found this book mediocre. Out of 5 stars, I would give it 2.5.
Okay.
I was going to give it 3.5, because when you get on the ebooks with the Kindle, at the end of it says, tell us what you think, rate out of 5. But of course, you can only do whole stars, so I ended up giving it a 4.
Ooh, you're nice to me.
Well, it's between 3 and 4, and I thought, well, I enjoyed the twists, and especially the pet paw alien race. They were really quite interesting. So I thought I'd put it up rather than down. And as I said, I never got to the point where I didn't want to continue reading. So although I thought some of the characters could have been a lot stronger and a lot of the plot lines could have been stronger, it wasn't a bad read.
I think I read this one in, 2 weeks, a week and a half or so. So I got through it very quickly. I liked it in terms of the story flow, the way that I handled it. But is it a great book? No, I would give it about 3 stars.
All right.
But I found it to be a very easy read for me.
Well, that's good.
Would it be, if somebody wanted to get into Trek books, would either of you recommend it as somebody's first book?
No. If I was going to recommend,
because it was for you.
Right.
If I was going to recommend any book,
I was given lemons and I made lemonade.
Yeah, you did. What did you say, Steve?
I was going to say, if I was going to recommend a book to start with, it would either be the Destiny trilogy or The Fall. It'd be one of those.
Oh God, no! I would recommend, me personally, it'd be the first book of Vanguard.
Wow. Yeah,
because you're. Well, hold on.
It depends.
I would have to ask the person what crew was their favorite.
I would have to say, if they were going to say, "Oh, I like the TOS era," if you like I would recommend Vanguard. But I would have to say, most of the books that are being written and are coming out now are post Nemesis Prime universe. So I would have to say Destiny trilogy.
The reason I would say Destiny or The Fall is because both those series link into all the other series that have been going on.
But
and all the different
couldn't give
TV
the ball
series.
because there's too much backstory that you kind of have to know if somebody was just coming into it. If that was
Well-
the case, I would go with Destiny.
Well, not necessarily, because I haven't yet read all the other series that The Fall has linked into, and I think it does a very good job of filling in a lot of the spaces, although not completely, of course, because they still want you to read those books. But it all made sense. Unlike, sort of, I haven't seen That Which Survives, the TOS episode that One Small Step continues after. And a lot of what didn't make sense to me was because, obviously, a lot wasn't put into the book to make it make sense.
I guess because so much changed in Destiny, it was such a galaxy changer. That's why I would recommend that before The Fall, because the invasion
Definitely, yeah.
changed so many things and all of that.
Definitely.
Well, I think that's quite interesting. I myself, I'm still going to read it. What's the next first book of a series that we're going to be talking about? You said it's going to be the Time 2 series, right?
It is.
Yes.
What's that, Nick?
Mm.
Hear it?
It just,
The Time
It's
2 series?
TNG, A Time to Be Born.
yeah, no, Terry, you already know how I feel about how that series progressed.
You're not the only one.
Yeah.
I only just started reading it at lunchtime, so I've only got sort of
And it's a
7%
shame
through the
'cause
book.
I love all of the authors involved with that series.
Yeah.
Let's just say, for those that are looking forward to it, think Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., how it began and where it's at now.
And it really, but you know what though? I think it's a really great precursor series
Oh, it is.
for what happens in the fall, don't you?
Yes.
So
I'm really interested in
And
reading
you know
it.
what I like about the first... Well, never mind. We'll get into it
Teswa.
at another time. Well, no, Teswa came later.
Yeah, well, book 7 is
No,
of it,
but the
I think.
first book of this series is very Wesley Crusher
Oh, yeah.
as a traveler.
Oh yeah. Well,
And very interesting in that respect.
absolutely. I think you guys are gonna like it. So I'm looking forward to talking to you about the kickoff of the Time 2 series. Again, the Time 2 series has been out for quite some time as well. I want to say it was 2006.
Yeah,
or
because
so,
I got
right?
those when I was in Iraq.
And I want to say the Time 2 series was the first series I bought, as somebody talked
Because
about.
those bridged between Insurrection and Nemesis.
And Nemesis. I wanted to know how the hell Riker and Troy got together. That's all I'm saying. It's like, wait a minute. What the hell happened here? Because as far as I was concerned, well,
Yeah,
again,
her and Worf were hooked up, and
I really, as much as people hate me for it, I thought they made a better couple at the time.
yeah, and then he ends up showing up in DS9 alone.
I'm like, what the hell happened?
And then
He got right
And then all of a
a
sudden they
couple
get
years
married
later,
at the
she's
beginning of
with
yeah. I was like, well, wait a minute.
Riker took his out and laid it on the table. Worf his took out, and Riker said, I got more pips, big boy.
Yeah, but his had more ridges. I'm just saying.
Riker's had the beard.
Yeah, that is true. Well, I like the goatee thing too. So you know.
This has turned so ugly.
Yeah, but didn't Diana and Deanna hate the beard? Because isn't there a point where she goes, I've never kissed you with a beard before?
She kissed him a bazillion times with a beard.
I'm sure there is an episode or a movie where she says, I've never kissed you with a beard before.
Yeah,
Exactly.
which
And he
is
shaves it
bullshit
off.
Because she had. Because
Total
her
bullshit.
and Ro both did the nasty with him on the one where all their minds,
Yeah.
all their
That's
memories
right.
were gone.
Yeah,
And they remembered sleeping together.
that's
Yeah.
right.
Because if I remember correctly, I think Will even got a little threesome going there.
I'm
You
wondering
horny
whether or not
bastard.
he did. It wouldn't have surprised me. And Troy totally would have been up for it because allegedly she was Betazoid, although she was the most uptight Betazoid ever. But but it was the Time 2 series that got me into reading Star Trek books because I had that morbid curiosity. I wanted to know how the hell did they get from here to here, because it was a big missing period of time. I was 2-3 years.
Dear Susan Wright, you know your book really hasn't resonated when we're discussing Riker's sexual mating. Sexual
No, I think that's just the way pretty much all of my Star Trek conversations end up, right?
Well,
I saw one review
go ahead.
about Gateways #1. This is a horribly well-written book. I don't know if that's a candid compliment or not.
I wouldn't know. Mike?
Well, I just want to finish up a little bit and say that our next book club is going to be on the 28th of May at 6 p.m., and that's when we're going to be discussing A Time to Be Born. So,
And if you'd
join
like
us.
to participate, send us an email at hosts@gntshow.com, and you can jump in and be part of the recording. We'd love to have you.
All right. Well, thank you very much, everyone, for joining us. Until next time, Kapla.
Goodbye.
Joe on true.
Joel on true. Bitches.
Music for the G&T show is provided by Warp 11, Grethor, 5-Year Mission, and Andrew Allen's Smooth Federation.
G&T Show is a Busy Little Beaver production.